The glass hit the marble and exploded into glitter. Daniel Cole didn't even see which elbow clipped his tray. 1 second the crystal flute was gliding past a woman's diamond bracelet, the next it was spinning, then shattering in front of the bar. Champagne sprayed his shoes. Conversations stalled mid-sentence. $300, the manager hissed in his ear, already on her knees, inspecting the fragments like they were a crime scene. That was French crystal. You break it, you pay it, or you leave. 300. Half his rent. I'll cover it, Daniel said, because what else could he say? His cheeks burned under the room's soft lighting. The couple at the nearest table pretended not to watch. 20 minutes later, he walked out of the back door with his last paycheck, no job, and a crumpled flyer someone had shoved into his hand on the sidewalk. One-night event staff needed Whitmore Estate. Upper East Side $1,000 cash. Tonight. $1,000 for one night sounded like a typo. It also sounded like survival. He folded the flyer into his pocket and took it home like it might disappear if he blinked. By 6 the next morning, Daniel stood in his kitchen, cracking 2 eggs into a pan that had forgotten what non-stick felt like. Oil hissed, angry and thin. The apartment was still except for the second-hand fridge buzzing in the corner and the low rumble of trucks from the street. Rent due in 5 days. $240 in his account. His brain kept doing the math like a glitching calculator, spitting out the same impossible answer. "Morning, Dad." Mia padded out of the bedroom in socks that didn't match, curls mashed on one side from sleep. She climbed onto their wobbly kitchen chair and sat at the little table like it was a throne. "Morning, Bug," Daniel said. He slid the eggs and 2 pieces of toast onto a plate and set it in front of her. She eyed the food, then eyed him. "Aren't you eating?" "I already ate at work," he lied. He poured her a glass of water to keep his hands busy. "Big night tonight." She picked up her fork but didn't start. "Dad." "Yeah." "Can we get that strawberry cake from the bakery? The one with the cream on top." He hesitated only a heartbeat. "This weekend," he said. "If I can pick up some extra shifts." "You promise?" He knelt beside her chair, smoothing a wild curl away from her face. She smelled like sleep and cheap shampoo and everything that mattered. "I promise," he said. Mia set down her fork and threw her arms around his neck. "I don't need the cake," she whispered. "I just need you." He held her too tight for a second, breathing her in, letting the words settle somewhere under his ribs. Then he pulled back and forced a smile. "Eat your eggs. Mrs. Chen's taking you to school today." "Okay." She studied him. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," he said, standing. "I've got a job tonight." The crumpled flyer waited on the counter, its edges gone soft from being handled too many times. Daniel picked it up, smoothed it flat, then folded it into his jacket pocket with more care than he'd ever given paperwork in his life. Whitmore Estate. $1,000. One night. 40 minutes on the subway carried him from stained concrete and corner bodegas to tree-lined streets where the cars parked at the curbs cost more than he'd made in the last 2 years. His reflection in the train window looked like a man trying on someone else's life. Fresh shave, iron shirt, jacket hiding the faint stain near the collar. The Whitmore place sat behind iron gates at the end of a quiet block. White stone, tall windows, clipped hedges, a security camera watching every movement. It looked less like a house and more like a palace that had decided to pretend it was in New York. Daniel stood on the sidewalk for a moment, fingers pressed to the flyer in his pocket, feeling the paper crinkle against his knuckles. $1,000 for one night. Mia's strawberry cake. Rent. Groceries. Breathing room. He stepped up to the gate and showed his ID to the guard. The man checked a tablet, barely glancing at his face, then buzzed him through. As the iron gate slid open and Daniel walked up the long stone path toward the service entrance, one thought cut through the noise in his head. If he did everything right tonight, No one would remember he'd ever been here. He had no idea how wrong that was about to be. The kitchen was bigger than Daniel's entire apartment. Stainless steel running the length of 3 walls, chefs moving with the sharp precision of surgeons. The woman in the black suit intercepted him before he could take 2 steps inside. "You're one of the extra servers?" "Yes, ma'am." "Name?" "Daniel Cole." She scanned him from shoes to hairline, assessing whether he was a risk or just replaceable. "Main hall. Stay along the walls unless you're delivering something. Don't speak to guests unless spoken to. Don't look them in the eye. And for God's sake, don't drop anything." Daniel nodded. She didn't wait for confirmation. "Uniform room is down the corridor. You have 20 minutes. The uniform fit like it had been designed for someone who had either never eaten a carb or was 2 decades younger, but it was clean, and the sleeves covered the stain on his shirt collar. By 7, he was in a line with the other servers, most of them college kids who whispered to each other like it was summer camp instead of a Manhattan palace. Then the guests began to arrive. Daniel slipped through the edges of the hall, carrying champagne across floors polished to a mirror. Chandeliers glittered overhead like they existed to judge him, and every corner held men and women dressed in clothes that cost more than his last 3 months of rent combined. Voices murmured in a curated hush, laughter soft and practiced. He felt invisible. Until she walked in. Aria Whitmore. Her dress was the color of cold sky, simple, elegant, expensive without trying. Her hair pulled back in a clean line that made her features look carved. She smiled at everyone who approached her, but even from across the room, Daniel could tell it was a smile she wore the way someone wears armor. Behind her, Grayson Vale, 2 steps back, one hand resting lightly on her waist. Sharp jaw, sharper eyes, a suit tailored so precisely it could have sliced air. Aria didn't move herself through the crowd. Grayson moved her. Slight pressure on her back, a hand on her elbow, guiding her left, right, forward, like she was a curated exhibit rather than a person. Daniel watched her shoulders tighten when photographers approached. She smiled on cue. Grayson pulled her closer, the perfect couple framed by cold light. The men laughed at something Grayson said. Aria's eyes drifted away for a fraction of a second as if searching for an exit. Daniel didn't realize he'd been staring until a server bumped into him. "Dude, move." He exhaled and stepped aside. Dinner began in a dining room large enough to host a wedding reception. Daniel delivered plates with mechanical steadiness. He kept his head down, hand steady, heart quiet. At the main table, Aria spoke only when spoken to. Grayson held court, businessmen leaning forward, hanging on every anecdote. At one point, he moved Aria's wine glass an inch to the left with 2 fingers. She didn't flinch. She didn't even look up. Then a crash behind Daniel snapped the room. He turned in time to see a young server stumbling backward over a guest's chair. The tray tipped, glasses sliding toward their death. Daniel lunged. He caught the tray with both hands just before it hit the ground. The glasses trembled but stayed upright. A few had already shattered. The kid muttered apologies, face pale. "It's fine," Daniel murmured, setting the tray on an empty chair. "You're fine." As he crouched to gather broken crystal, another hand appeared beside his. A manicured hand. A hand wearing an engagement ring the size of a thumbnail. Daniel looked up. Aria Whitmore was kneeling on the floor beside him. "You don't need to," he said quietly. "It's fine," she answered, already picking up pieces of crystal. When she extended them toward him, their fingers brushed, skin to skin, a flicker of warmth in a room full of chilled air. She met his eyes for a single heartbeat. Something flickered between them, recognition, curiosity, maybe the quiet shock of being seen. Then she stood. She smoothed her dress and walked back to her seat. The dining room was silent enough to hear the chandelier buzz. Grayson's expression had darkened into a shade between concrete and contempt. Conversation restarted slow, uncertain. Daniel stood, napkin full of shards in hand, and retreated to the kitchen. The woman in the black suit intercepted him. "What the hell was that?" He was about to drop the tray. "I caught it. Ms. Whitmore. I didn't ask her to." "Kitchen. 10 minutes. Stay there." When Daniel returned, dessert was already being served. The tension in the room felt different now. Tighter, waiting. He grabbed a wine bottle and approached the main table. Grayson was telling a story about a man named Marcus and a terrible investment, the table laughing politely. Daniel stepped toward him, and a woman at the next table stood abruptly, her chair catching Daniel's hip. The bottle tilted. Red wine poured across Grayson Vale's pristine right shoe. Silence collapsed over the room. Grayson looked down. Then up. Then down again. His jaw tightened like a loading weapon. "Are you joking?" he whispered. "Sir, I'm so sorry," Daniel said quickly. "It was an accident. Do you have any idea what these shoes cost?" Daniel swallowed. "I'll get something. $15,000. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered. Daniel felt his heartbeat in his teeth. "I'll pay for the cleaning." "The cleaning?" Grayson laughed once, sharp. "These are ruined. You'll pay for new ones." His voice rose. $15,000. Daniel froze. Grayson looked around at the table, performing humiliation with the ease of a man who'd practiced it. This is what happens when you hire cheap labor. No standards. No skill. Daniel lowered his gaze, heat rising in his face. Then a chair scraped softly. Aria stood. "That's enough," she said. Her voice carried. The room stilled. Grayson turned slowly. "Excuse me." "It was an accident," Aria said clearly. "Someone moved their chair. I saw it. That's not the point. You're humiliating someone over a pair of shoes." Gasps. Whispers. The room held its breath. Aria didn't blink. "If you don't drop this right now, I'm leaving." A crack formed in the night, quiet but fatal. Grayson stared, stunned. "You're leaving the party?" "Yes." He clenched his jaw. The ice returned to his voice. "Fine. But he's fired." "No," Aria said. "He's not." The woman in black wavered, then nodded. "Miss Whitmore understood." Daniel felt Grayson's eyes burn into him, promising consequences. He retreated to the kitchen, breathing too fast. But the night wasn't done with him yet. Not even close. Service ended just before 11. Daniel received his envelope of cash at the back door, $1,000, counted crisp and cold. He tucked it into his wallet with numb hands and stepped into the night air, ready to disappear into the subway, into his life, into anything that wasn't this world. But Aria Whitmore was waiting for him. She stood half a block from the estate under a street lamp, her winter sky dress hidden beneath a long coat. The light caught in her hair, making her look less like Manhattan royalty and more like a woman who'd been standing in the cold too long, thinking too hard. Daniel stopped a few feet from her. His heart pulled tight. "I wasn't sure you'd come out this way," she said. He kept a careful distance. "Ms. Whitmore." "Aria," she said softly. "Aria, I should go." "I know." She wrapped the coat tighter around herself. "I just wanted to make sure Grayson didn't cause you any more trouble." Daniel thought of Grayson's face when she had defied him in front of the room. That look wasn't anger, it was a promise. "I appreciate what you did," Daniel said quietly. "You didn't have to. I should have done it sooner." Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. "He won't let this go. He's already making calls, I'm sure. But I can handle him." "You don't have to," Daniel said. I do. She met his eyes, really met them. You helped someone tonight when you didn't have to. And I humiliated my fiancée in front of half of Manhattan's elite, so we're both going to have interesting weeks. Daniel didn't know how to answer that. He'd never met anyone who wore loneliness as elegantly as she did. Aria reached into her coat and handed him a folded card. I'm hosting a dinner party at my townhouse in 3 days. I need extra servers. Pay is $2,000. 4 hours. Daniel stared at the card. $2,000? That was rent, utilities, groceries, and Mia's strawberry cake, with money left over. Why me? He asked. Aria hesitated. Because you're good at your job. And because I trust you not to sell photos to the tabloids. Their fingers didn't touch this time. Good, bad, safe, dangerous. Think about it, she said. He watched her walk back toward the estate until the night swallowed her. The next afternoon, Daniel took Mia to Riverside Park. She sprinted toward the swings like gravity didn't apply to 6-year-olds. Daniel followed slowly, hands in his pockets, already counting bills in his head, doing math that still didn't add up. Dad, watch, she yelled. He did. Always. His phone buzzed. Marcus from the restaurant. Can you take a lunch shift tomorrow? Daniel typed, yes. Bills didn't care about exhaustion. Bills didn't care about hope. Mia jumped off the swing at its highest arc, hit the mulch, and bounced up laughing. Another girl joined her, and within minutes they were in fierce competition over who could launch themselves higher. Daniel sat on the bench, letting the sound of their laughter burn away the ache behind his ribs. Then Mia ran over, breathless. Dad, can we get ice cream? It's almost winter. So, she said, hands on hips. Ice cream is for all seasons. Daniel snorted. 1 scoop. They walked to the bodega. Daniel bought her a cup of strawberry ice cream. The cheap kind. Mia didn't care. She ate it happily as they walked home. Dad, she said suddenly, looking up at him, how come you don't go on dates? Sarah's dad goes on dates. I'm busy with work. But don't you get lonely? I have you, Daniel said. That's not the same. He stopped, knelt, wiped a smear of pink off her chin. My time is for you, he said. You're the most important person in my life. Mia threw her arms around his neck. Ice cream cup and all. He held her right there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw. What Daniel didn't see was the black car parked across the street. Aria Whitmore watched through tinted windows. She hadn't meant to be here. Her driver had taken a wrong turn to avoid construction. And then, there Daniel was, kneeling on the sidewalk, holding his daughter like she was something precious. Mia laughed and clung to him. He kissed the top of her head and listened to her chatter with a patience that didn't seem possible in this city. Aria's chest cracked open. You're the most important person in my life. No one had ever said those words to her. Not her parents. Not Grayson. Not anyone. The car idled softly. The driver glanced back. Continue, ma'am. Aria looked away from the window. Yes. Take me home. But she kept seeing Daniel and Mia on that sidewalk. The warmth, the gentleness, the thing money could never buy. 3 days later, Daniel rang the bell of Aria Whitmore's townhouse. 4 floors, black door, gold fixtures, understated wealth that whispered instead of screamed. Uniform is this way, said the house manager, handing him instructions he already knew. No speaking to guests unless addressed. No eye contact. And don't drop anything. A small dinner party. 12 guests. Quiet. Elegant. Aria entered at 7:30. Black dress. Hair down. Shadows beneath her eyes like she hadn't slept well. Grayson arrived 10 minutes later. He kissed her cheek and immediately dominated the room, hand on her back, voice too loud, smile too polished. Aria mirrored him with mechanical grace. Halfway through the meal, Grayson looked up and saw Daniel. The warmth in his face evaporated. His eyes hardened into something cold and sharp. He waited until Daniel stepped behind him with a plate. Grayson stood, leaned close, and spoke just for him. "I don't know what you think you're doing here." Daniel kept his gaze forward. "Working, sir. Stay away from Aria." His voice was ice. "Whatever fantasy you're entertaining, kill it now. She's mine. This house will be mine when we're married. You're nothing." Daniel's jaw locked. "Understood?" Grayson asked softly. "Yes, sir." "Good. Try not to ruin anything tonight. You couldn't pay for it if you did." He smiled then, a smile without light, and returned to his seat like nothing had happened. Daniel stood in the kitchen afterward, breathing in short, sharp bursts. He finished the service without a mistake. When the guests left, the house manager handed him his payment and an envelope. "Miss Whitmore asked me to give you this." On the subway home, Daniel opened it. A folded card. Thick paper. Handwritten in careful strokes. "Thank you for tonight. I know this isn't easy." The ink was still fresh. Daniel closed his eyes and held the note like it might steady him. It didn't. Not for long. Because life wasn't finished breaking. Not yet. 4 nights later, Daniel was wiping down the bar at Marchand when the front door opened at 10:45 p.m., 15 minutes before closing. Aria Whitmore walked in. She didn't look like the woman from the magazines, or the engagement photos, or the silent dinner parties. She looked lost. Like she'd walked a long distance without realizing it. Daniel froze with a glass in his hand. "Is there somewhere we can talk?" she asked. He glanced toward the kitchen, Marcus buried in paperwork, the other servers counting tips in the back. "The patio," Daniel said quietly. He led her outside to the tiny concrete alcove overlooking an alley. Chairs stacked for winter. Cold wind threading between brick walls. Aria crossed her arms. "I'm sorry to ambush you." "It's fine." "It's not." Her voice cracked in a way Daniel had never heard before. "I need to tell you something. Or ask you something. I'm not sure." He waited. "I saw you," she said. 4 days ago. With your daughter." Daniel's stomach dropped. "You were following me?" "No. My driver took a wrong turn. It was an accident." She shook her head. "But I watched you with her. The way you held her. The way she looked at you." Her eyes softened painfully. "I've never had that. My parents, their love was performance. Deals. Dinner parties. Expectations. I don't remember the last time someone told me I mattered just for existing." Daniel didn't move. "When you saved that server at the party," she continued, "I recognized something. But seeing you with Mia, I realized you have what I've been looking for my whole life, and I don't even know what to call it." "It's called love," Daniel said, low and honest. Aria closed her eyes for a moment. "I'm marrying a man who treats me like property, who positions me like I'm part of a presentation deck. I'm trapped, Daniel, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not." He stepped closer without meaning to. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need help," she whispered. "And because you're the only person who has ever stood up for me without wanting something in return." She met his eyes. "I want to hire you. As a personal assistant. Or bodyguard. Or whatever title makes it look legitimate. I need someone I can trust. Someone who gives me room to breathe." Daniel's pulse tightened. Mia asleep at home. The envelope of cash. The fear in Aria's voice. Grayson's threat ringing in his head. "I can't," he said. Aria blinked. "What?" "I have a daughter," Daniel said. "If I step into your world, into whatever this is with you and Grayson, it won't just be me who pays the price. She could get hurt. I would never let anything happen to her." "You can't promise that." His voice came out harder than intended. "Your world would crush me. It would crush both of us. I can't gamble her life on someone else's escape plan." Aria stared at him, something inside her flickering, then dimming. "I understand," she said finally. "I shouldn't have asked." She turned to leave. Daniel caught her arm. "I'm sorry, but she's all I have." Aria nodded, pulled free gently, and disappeared through the restaurant. Daniel stayed in the cold until Marcus called his name. 3 days passed. Then the photos appeared. Daniel was walking Mia to school when his phone buzzed non-stop. Unknown numbers, unread texts, missed calls. He ignored them until Mrs. Chen stopped him on the stairs. "Daniel, have you seen the news?" She showed him her phone. A gossip site. A photo of Aria in a dark cafe, sitting across from a man whose face was partially obscured. Trouble in paradise. Aria Whitmore spotted with mystery man days before wedding announcement. Daniel felt the ground drop beneath him. "It's you," Mrs. Chen whispered. "Isn't it?" "I should go," Daniel said. He got Mia to school, then went home. His phone kept buzzing like it was trying to scream. He finally opened the messages, strangers calling him names, speculating who he was, dissecting his life. Then one text hit like a knife. "This is Caroline Whitmore. Stay away from my daughter, or I will destroy you." By noon, they'd identified him. By 2, his full name and address were online. By 4, someone had posted photos of Mia. Daniel's vision blurred. He slammed his phone down on the table. At 5 p.m., Marcus called. "Daniel, I need you to come in. I'm off today. Please, just come." Daniel walked into the restaurant already knowing. "The Whitmore family is major investors," Marcus said quietly. "Corporate demanded we fire you. If we don't, they're pulling funding." "It's okay," Daniel said. His voice sounded far away. "I understand." "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, handing him an envelope. 2 weeks severance. It's all I could get them to agree to. A man outside tried to take Daniel's photo. He shoved past him. That night, Daniel did the math. Rent due in 2 weeks. Electric overdue. School fees coming. 2 weeks severance that wouldn't cover half. His phone buzzed again. Press conference tomorrow. Aria Whitmore TO address engagement rumors. He turned his phone off. The next morning, the world exploded. Daniel turned his phone on and watched the video. Aria stood at a podium, surrounded by microphones. Her hair tied back, her face pale but steady. "I'm canceling my engagement to Grayson Vale," she began. Journalists erupted. Flashes went off like lightning. This marriage was a business arrangement. Not love. Not mine. Someone yelled a question. "And as for the man in those photos, Daniel Cole, he is not a homewrecker. He is not a gold digger. He is a good man who showed me kindness when I desperately needed it. That's all. He doesn't deserve what's being done to him." Another question rose over the noise. Aria didn't answer. "I'm taking control of my life," she said. "Finally." Then she walked away. Daniel watched the clip 3 times, unable to breathe. She had burned down her world to defend him. And the fire didn't stop there. For 72 hours, every headline screamed his name. Waiter destroys society wedding. Mystery man behind breakup. Who is Daniel Cole? His face was on news feeds. His old social media photos dragged out. Someone found his college graduation picture and called him a con artist playing the long game. Daniel unplugged his laptop, turned off his phone, focused on Mia, protected what he could. But the world didn't stop. Mia's school whispered. Parents pulled their kids away. Cameras followed them home. And the life Daniel had fought so hard to keep crumbled. He moved Mia out of their apartment 8 days after the press conference. The Bronx. 1 bedroom. Flickering hallway lights. A landlord who didn't care about fame or scandal. Mia cried the first morning at her new school. "Dad, why do people hate you?" Daniel knelt, heart cracking. "They don't hate me. They just think they know a story that isn't true." "What story?" "A complicated one. But you and me, that's what matters." She nodded, but her eyes stayed worried. Daniel watched her disappear inside, feeling like the world had punched a hole through him. Finding work was impossible. The Whitmores had erased him from the industry. His savings drained. His furniture sold. His life stripped to essentials: Mia's bed, a futon, 3 outfits, and a stack of printed pages, the manuscript he'd worked on for 2 years. 3 weeks later, his checking account held $8. Then, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Cole," a woman said. "This is Rachel Morrison from Clearwater Press." Daniel blinked. "Who?" "We'd like to publish your manuscript. $5,000 advance. We believe in it." He sat down hard. 5,000 wasn't salvation. But it was air. Yes," he whispered. When the call ended, Daniel pressed his palms to his eyes and cried. Quiet, shaking tears he'd been swallowing for weeks. He was rebuilding from the rubble. He had no idea Aria Whitmore was, too. Just in a very different way. While Daniel rebuilt in silence, Aria rebuilt in fire. The day after her press conference, the Whitney Hotel Group held an emergency board meeting. Aria walked in wearing jeans and a sweater, no designer armor, no curated facade. Her father sat at the head of the table, stiff as the leather chairs. Her mother stared straight ahead, refusing to meet her eyes. "You've embarrassed this family," her father said without preamble. "You've destroyed a merger that took 3 years. You've made us look weak." "I did what I should have done years ago," Aria replied, calm and clear. "You have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done." She placed a slim leather portfolio on the table, opened it, and slid a presentation across to them. "I'm resigning," she said. "Effective immediately. I'm starting my own company. Small, sustainable boutique hotels, environmentally responsible, authentic guest experiences. I have initial investors. I have a plan. I don't need your approval. I'm informing you." Her father stared at her like she was speaking another language. Her mother's voice was cold as ice. "You'll have nothing. No inheritance. No support. No protection." "I'll have myself," Aria said. "That's more than I've ever had." She walked out. No one followed. 2 board members called her that night. Then 2 more. People who'd been quietly frustrated with the Whitney empire for years. Within a week, she had 5 angel investors. Within 3 months, she had contractors, architects, and a location in Rhinebeck. Felix tried calling 14 times. Aria blocked him. He showed up once at her townhouse. She didn't answer the door. Lawyers handled the rest. The merger collapsed. The families released a joint statement, smooth and hollow. Aria ignored it all and worked. 16-hour days. Blueprints. Site visits. Budget meetings. Exhaustion with purpose instead of performance. She thought of Daniel sometimes. Quiet moments after midnight, when the world was finally silent and the only sound was the hum of her laptop. She wondered if he and Mia were okay. Wondered if he hated her for the storm that had swallowed him. But she stayed away. She told herself that was mercy. 2 years passed. Daniel's book released quietly in spring. The Glass Floor. A few hundred copies sold. Then a book blogger loved it. Then another. A podcast interviewed him anonymously. By summer, Daniel Cole was on bestseller lists. He never appeared on camera. Interviews were voice-only or email. Fame was something he had no interest in courting, not after living through its ugliest side. Clearwater Press offered him another contract. 3 books. A larger advance. Enough money to move Mia back to Manhattan, not to their old neighborhood, but close enough that the commute wasn't punishing. Mia was 8 now. Taller, braver, still carrying pieces of the girl who'd cried at her new school's entrance but now proudly introduced herself to classmates. She told Daniel she wanted to be a writer like him. Daniel took her to bookstores. She'd traced the spine of the glass floor with one small finger. "That's my dad," she whispered each time. He never got used to how that made his chest tighten. Aria's first hotel opened in October. Haven and Company. 20 rooms. Solar power. Farm-to-table dining. Minimalist warmth, honest materials, sunlight through wide windows. Nothing that looked like her family's hotels. No marble meant to intimidate guests into silence. No cold spectacle. Forbes wrote a glowing feature. Architectural Digest sent a photographer. Within 6 months, the place was booked a year out. Aria cut her hair shorter. Stopped wearing clothes chosen to please boardrooms. Stopped smiling the polite, empty smile people expected from her. She went on 3 dates in 2 years. None stuck. She told herself she was busy. Mostly, she was simply tired of people who talked to her like a brand acquisition. Her world expanded, but every now and then, late, when the workday ended, she felt a quiet ache she refused to name. One crisp October afternoon, Aria found herself in Brooklyn after a meeting with potential investors. It was an ordinary street, bookstore, vintage shop, small cafe wedged between them. She stepped inside for coffee. She was looking at her phone when she felt something shift, like the air thinned, like she'd walked into a memory she never dared hope for. She looked up. Daniel was sitting by the window. Older, slightly. A little gray at the temples. Glasses. A notebook open in front of him, pen in hand. His gaze focused, relaxed in a way she'd never seen during the chaos of their shared past. And beside him, Mia. No longer 6. 8 now. Drawing in a sketchbook, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth in concentration. Aria's breath left her completely. Daniel looked up at the exact moment she froze. Their eyes met. 2 years of distance collapsed silently between them. And Daniel smiled. Soft. Surprised. Real. Aria felt warmth unfurl in her chest, slow and dangerous. She walked over before she lost her nerve. Mia looked up and gasped. "You're the lady from the magazines." Aria laughed. "I guess I am. What are you drawing?" "A spaceship," Mia said proudly. "For my story." "You're writing a story?" Aria asked. "My dad says everyone should write their own stories." Aria looked up at Daniel. His expression held something she couldn't read, something like recognition mixed with caution, with a question, with something that had never fully died. "Long time," he said quietly. "Yes," Aria said. "But maybe the right amount of time." Daniel considered that. "Maybe." "Can I sit?" she asked. "Yes," he said, already pulling out the chair. She sat. Mia returned to her drawing. Daniel closed his notebook. Outside, Brooklyn moved as if this moment wasn't bending the axis of 3 lives back together. They talked about small things. Mia showed her drawings. Daniel mentioned his book. Aria described her hotel. They didn't talk about Grayson, or press conferences, or photographs that once tried to ruin them. They didn't talk about the things they'd survived separately. For the first time, they weren't running from tragedy or toward disaster. They were just here. When Aria finally stood to leave, Mia looked up. "Are you coming back?" she asked. Aria glanced at Daniel. He didn't speak, but something in his expression softened, permission or hope, or maybe the beginning of something new. "I don't know," Aria said honestly. "Would that be okay?" Mia nodded. "Dad could use more friends." Daniel huffed under his breath. "Thanks, sweetheart." Aria smiled. "Then maybe I will." She walked to the door. The bell chimed softly as she stepped into the cool October air. Before turning the corner, she looked back. Daniel was watching her through the window. Mia tugged his sleeve, asking something, and he answered without looking away. Aria didn't wave. He didn't, either. Some endings don't need gestures. Some stories don't end at all. They pause, waiting for the next page.